Yeah, they're not the smartest bunch in the group here. You think they had all that time to come up with a plan, come up with a story, and get rid of the firearm. Okay. Now, if this was self-defense, as they alleged, why not just call 911? Leave everything as is, not move anything, not jump in the car, not drag one of the victims and throw them in the back seat and drive off and meet dad in a parking lot. Just stop there, call 911, and let the chips fall where they may, because it wasn't self-defense, and that's why they went through all of this, and they weren't smart enough to remove that gun. This is Forensic Friday, and I'm going to be showing some pictures of hard contact, intermediate contact, close contact, so forth. Okay, and I'm going to be showing some drawings so that I can explain this, and then I'm going to get into some ballistics on how they match bullets to guns and cartridge cases to guns and so forth.
This is going to be an interesting evening, and it just blows my mind.
He posted it on his social media accounts.
Yeah.
Okay, but all right, so let's get into the guns. Since you brought it up, let's get into the forensics, folks. Now, right from the get-go, they found one cartridge case inside of the vehicle. So from the cartridge case head stamp, which I'll show you in a minute, you're going to get the caliber and the manufacturer of that ammunition. Okay. In addition, now they have the firearm. So if you, the firearm has to be processed for DNA, fingerprints, and ballistics. In addition, you want to look down after you make the gun safe. You want to look at all of the sides of the firearm and the inside of the barrel for blood stains. Of course, with the contact and close contact wounds, blood will project backwards from the entrance wound and sometimes goes right down the barrel and lands on the gun, lands on the front of the shooter's hands, depending on how you hold your gun, left-handed or right-handed. And so you want to search that gun very carefully, and you want to search that barrel looking for blood that might be in there. So the cartridge case, you drop the magazine, and now you look at the ammo that may be still left in the magazine. We're talking about a semi-automatic. You're gonna take the magazine and document what type of ammunition in there. Now, if that ammunition is of the same caliber and manufacturer as what was found in the car, great. That's circumstantial strong evidence that there could be a linkage here, but you haven't made the linkage yet. Okay, the linkage is going to be made in the lab using microscopic analysis. So what they'll do now is they'll take that gun back to the lab and look for all those things that I said: hairs and fibers, blood, fingerprints, DNA. And then they're going to do operability testing on that firearm. They're going to take the gun to a firearm water tank and discharge a few rounds into the tank, gathering up the cartridge cases, gathering up the bullets from the water tank, and then they're going to photograph them, put them underneath the microscope, photograph them, and start doing comparisons with the cartridge case recovered from the car and the bullets recovered upon autopsy. And they'll look, and they'll look at that under the mic, make the comparisons, and I'm going to show you what all of that looks like right now. Okay, folks, this is called the head stamp. All right, this is the base of the cartridge case, and on the base there, it's in black and white, but if it was in color, you would see the color of the actual casing. Is it brass? Is it a brass colored casing? Is it a white metal casing? And then the primer is the center dot. That is an explosive, primary explosive that when hit by the firing pin causes a detonation of the small explosive that's in the primer, which then ignites the powder that is inside of the cartridge casing. And that powder's gases then push the bullet out of the cartridge case, and the bullet will fly down the barrel, and the barrel contains what's called lands and grooves, and there are specific numbers of lands and grooves, and there are specific ways they twist. Some twist to the right, some twist to the left, and then the bullet's trajectory will be caused by that twisting, and the bullet will exit. Following the bullet, there'll be gunpowder, smoke, and fire, and so forth, and soot, gunshot residue. Down here is going to be a tool mark on this edge, and that is going to be the extractor mark. Typically on the right side by the ejection port, there's a little hook that hooks into this area. And when the hammer hits the primer and sends the bullet down the barrel, the gases will push the slide back, because it pushes this whole head stamp that I showed you previously, this whole head stamp.
And does this go same thing for a revolver as opposed to a semi-auto? Showing?
No, you have to manually eject cartridges from a revolver after they've been spent.
Right.
But this whole head stamp is going to impact the back of the breech because of the gases pushing it back. This is how the mechanism of this firearm works. All right, and it's going to leave lines, parallel lines called breech marks on the primer and on the head stamp. And I'll show you that in a minute. Okay.
And also let the folks in the audience know why this is so important as it pertains to the murders of Matthew Guerra and Savanah Soto.
Because these tool marks are going to be examined under a microscope, and they're going to be used to definitively match the cartridge cases back to the murder weapon, or say that, in fact, that these cartridge cases, the cartridge case found in the car does not come back to this gun. So it's either going to say...
This is the science that the crime scene investigators and the ballistic experts in the lab, as you say, make the positive identification of the recovered weapon that the chief spoke about today. And that's how they match it up and bring it into the court of law and say, this firearm definitively was used to murder these both victims. And here's why.
Right, and it's called ballistic tool mark examinations. So there's going to be a tool mark left here, all right, from the extractor. Now on the other side is what's called the ejector. It's a little pin that rubs along the side of this cartridge case and pushes it out of the ejector port when it opens as the slide is coming back. And then I told you the other tool mark. Plus, when this projectile, the bullet, goes down the barrel, the lands and grooves will now embed themselves into this bullet, and I'll show you that. Let's see what we got next here. So that's the lands and grooves on the side of a bullet. So this is a comparison microscope, and what you see there is the firearms tool mark examiner is placing the head stamp onto the mic stand. There's a little putty there that he's going to push the cartridge case into the putty to hold it, and then you can see the light and the camera come down on it, the microscope lens, and they'll get an image of the head stamp, and they're going to be looking for the breech marks. Let's see what else I have here. Okay, so under the microscope, you have the test fired. These are actually two different cartridge cases that you're looking at. You have one on the right and one on the left. So you have the test cartridge that you made by firing into the water tank, and then you have the crime scene cartridge that you recovered from the vehicle. You put them there. There are two separate mic stands that you put them together, and then you move them back and forth across each other. And you can see here, this is the line of demarcation for the two different cartridge cases, and then you can see where the lines of comparison match. That shows that the cartridge to the right and the cartridge to the left slammed into that back of the breech face after the cartridge, after the firing pin was hit, causing the gases to push the bullet down the barrel and causing the cartridge to slam into the breech to push the slide back to eject this cartridge out of the gun and then go forward to pull a new live round out of the magazine into the chamber.
And the reason you said that they will take now this recovered weapon and bring it into the lab and shoot it into a bucket is because now they'll take the casing or casings, if they have casings from elsewhere that we don't know about, but we do know they have one in the vehicle.
Here's the water tank, folks. So the tester of the firearm goes where that
bigger, please.
So the shooter would stand behind the caution sign and place the firearm into that red net area. You see a large funnel, and they will fire a series of test rounds down into this water tank, and then they would collect the cartridge casings from the red net, and then they would go into the water tank and retrieve the bullets. So this is the testing water tank.
That water tank is interesting because I don't think a lot of people had an idea of what that looked like. And those are not teeny little buckets. Those are big industrial. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to shoot it into a teeny little bucket.
No. is those are industrial tanks that are made.
It's designed for this. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, so now this is a photograph of a discharged projectile, the bullet, and you can see the lands and grooves, how they embed themselves onto the side of the bullet. And first counting up the numbers of lands and grooves and knowing the caliber, then you get that class characteristic evidence. You go into your library, reference library, and you say, okay, this is a 45 cal. It has 6 lines and grooves to the right. What manufacturer makes a 45 cal with those rifling? And then you'll get a limited set of manufacturers that will pop up.
Forensic Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to the channel and you'll see this at least once a month.